Okay, once again, welcome to our Catholic Studies Night, and tonight's topic is some things you may not have known about purgatory. So let's start off with some basics before we cover some of the more aspects of purgatory that might not be too familiar with. So first of all, for many people in our day and age, it's a very modern thing. Many people struggle with minimalism. That's the attitude and quite frankly the lifestyle, where one is trying to get the most out of doing the least. The basic approach is, what is the least I can do and still make it to where I want to be? Okay, what's the most I can get with the least amount of effort? Not a good way to handle things, especially when it comes to something that is eternal, like making it home to heaven. And so for many people, they feel that they cannot or don't want to make the effort to fully become a saint. They feel they're not exactly either an axe murderer either, okay? And so they don't think they're going to go to hell. And so they simply settle for making it at least into purgatory. I just go in the back door, I'll take the last helicopter out of, whatever, okay? I'll make it there, all right? That's a bad way of approaching things, okay? But what's the other problem? For many other people, especially those who are not Catholic, there's quite a lot of doubt there is even such a place as purgatory. So here then are the basics. And we'll start here with number one. Purgatory exists. It might seem like it'd be stating the obvious, but for some Catholics, purgatory has become what the pastor, author, and blogger, Father Dwight Longenecker, has called the forgotten doctrine. For many Catholics even, it's become the forgotten doctrine. Many modern Catholics, he says, don't know what purgatory is anymore. They've bought into the idea that sin has no consequences. Everyone goes to heaven because God, he's just too nice to send anybody else anywhere else. The whole kind of notion of the church of nice kind of thing. It doesn't help us. The Church's doctrine on purgatory proclaims the opposite. It reminds us that sin does have consequences, eternal ones. While God is love, he still honors the free choices that are made by us men, women, and children. Now, Dr. Regis Martin, the professor of theology at Franciscan University, he says, that's the terrifying compliment God pays the creature. The terrifying compliment God pays to us. He takes seriously the freedom we exercise, even if it carries us straight into hell. It's unbelievable, this whole notion of free will. But that being said, he continued, while hopefully few of us are so wicked we would choose to be wretched forever without God, many people that's on their way to hell, that's how they feel. He goes on to say, not many of us are so pure we can be catapulted straight into the arms of God. Most of us are somewhere in between, and that's very true. That's where there's a need for purgatory. The final purification of those who die in friendship with God, who haven't fully broken their attachment to sin or atoned for wrongs done in this life. So, Dr. Martin says, when we stand before Christ to judge, all the compromises we made, all the gray areas in which our choices led us, have to be accounted for. We have to square accounts with the judge. Number two, purgatory isn't merely a punishment. You can look at it that way, but it's not really a punishment. It's a merciful gift and a testimony to God's love. Now, sometimes people hear about the sufferings of the souls in purgatory. Think that suffering is the desire of a vindictive God who's out to get us back because we didn't pray that rosary perfectly, okay? That's not God. He's not out to get you, okay? God forgives us immediately when we ask. The role of suffering, whether here on earth or in purgatory, is to undo the damage we've done through our sins. You see, God really does want to heal us. And part of that healing is not just to get our souls cleansed of our sins, but to make a perfect image of us of Jesus Christ. And perfect image of Christ is exactly what God calls each of us to become. And that, of course, is done either here on this earth, those of you who become saints, which all strive to become one, or it's done in purgatory. If you want to make it to heaven, it's got to be done one way, okay? And so according to the Catholic doctrine of salvation, God simply doesn't desire to save us from hell, state of eternal separation from him. More fundamentally, he desires to save us from sin, from being anything less than the men and women he's created us to be. Now, some theologians have put it, God's like a great heart surgeon, trying to give us new hearts that we need. But what do we keep doing? Flopping around on the operating table, okay? Moving away from the knife. Can you imagine that? Death, then, is like anesthesia. In purgatory, we're no longer able to resist the healing that we need. And God can finish the job he began during our lifetime. Okay, what's the third point? The suffering endured by the souls in purgatory isn't physical pain. Now, through the centuries, artists wanting to show the sufferings of purgatory have depicted men and women tormented by a burning fire. But see, those illustrations aren't a literal representation of what takes place in purgatory, because they can't be. In purgatory, the soul remains separated from the body. It can only suffer spiritually, not physically. So we get our bodies back either for heaven or for hell. In purgatory, you're just being cleaned up in your soul. That's not to say, however, that the flames of purgatory aren't real. They are. The writer who's written 7 books on purgatory, Susan Tassone, she said this: "The fire by which we are purified is an interior burning for the love of God." So immediately after their death, the souls in purgatory see God in all of his glory. They saw his love, his goodness, the plans he had for us, and they yearn for that. They burn for it with a yearning that surpasses the heat of any earthly fire. In other words, the primary pain endured by those in purgatory is the loss of the sight of God. They suffer from what Susan Tassone calls a spiritual fever. As that fever rages, it separates the soul from sin, a process almost equally painful. So to the extent we're attached to our sin, becoming detached from it, it'll hurt. But seeing it in its horror, how it wounded us and wounded others, how it led us away from God's perfect plan, no physical flames could be as painful as that. The next point number 4, is the souls in purgatory, they do experience joy as well as this pain. Now, in the great divine comedy that was written by Dante, as he makes his way through purgatory, the souls he encounters, they suffer. But unlike the souls he met in hell, they suffer willingly and gladly, with no self-pity, always eager to return to their sufferings when Dante is through questioning them. So in their eagerness, these fictional souls, they testify to the enduring Catholic teaching that purgatory isn't the outermost room of hell, but rather is the anteroom of heaven. Every soul in purgatory is bound for glory. You made it to purgatory, you're going to get to heaven sooner or later, okay? Their fate has been sealed, and ultimately, it's a blessed one. Therefore, the time spent in purgatory, whether short or long, is a time marked not only by suffering, but also by joy. So, just like it is here on this earth, anything worthwhile requires pain to make progress. But it's pain that has a reward at the end. It's kind of like getting physically fit. There's pain, but it's a sign of progress. It means you're on the road to where you want to be. That makes it painful, but a joyful type of pain. Number 5, our prayers for the dead matter, and they matter eternally. And many of you know this instinctively as Catholics. We pray for our beloved dead, but a lot of Christians don't do this. But our prayers make a huge amount of difference. Because the souls in purgatory, they might be bound for glory, but the progress of this whole process of purgation, being cleansed, okay, can still be long, it still can be painful. So except for humbly submitting to the purifying fire of Jesus' love, there's nothing those souls can do to speed up the process or to lessen the pain. They can't help themselves in purgatory. That's where we come in. And so, as Susan Tassone says, we need to be greedy for the graces to put upon the souls in purgatory. As she says, when the soul leaves the body, the time for merit is up, it's done. That soul is helpless. That's why they need our prayers, like the rosary, or adoration, or the Stations of the Cross, and most of all the Mass that we'll talk about in a second. We can offer for the souls in purgatory, and all those things are a great act of love that we can do for our beloved dead. We stay connected with them, okay? The Church also teaches that purgatory operates outside of space and time, as we know it here on earth. That means what? Never stop praying for those we lost. No prayer is ever wasted. Don't we think, oh, Grandma, she prayed the rosary every day. I'll offer her a couple of masses and that's it. You didn't know, did you, that Grandma was a little bit prejudiced. You didn't know that, did you? Okay? And she needs a lot more prayers to get out of purgatory, okay? And there you are thinking to yourself, oh, I got Grandma covered, man. She's good to go. She's probably ready to heaven. And then you die? You go walking in there, there's Grandma looking at you like, what's the deal, man? How come I'm still here? Why you stop praying for me? Okay? And so the thing is this, the prayers that we pray for our loved ones throughout the entirety of our lives play a huge part in helping others enter heaven. especially the holy sacrifice of the Mass. The next point number 6, this one's actually kind of cool. The holy souls intercede for us. Now, the souls in purgatory, they can't do anything for themselves. Their life here on this earth is done, all right? They're just in a state of purification. The church has long believed that they can do something for us. They can pray for us, helping us to receive the graces that we need to follow Jesus more perfectly. As I mentioned many, many times before, they're with us at Mass. It's not just the people in heaven, the saints and angels, but the people in purgatory are with us at Mass as well. They're just kind of sitting there hanging out, okay? Waiting for our prayers. Well, they are doing that. They're praying for you guys as well. Don't you forget your loved ones who've passed away, who were there for you once upon a time, who loved you, cared for you. Are they simply going to stop loving you just because they died? No, they're not. And more importantly, are we going to stop loving them and receiving love from them? We have great intercessors who've gone before us. But so many people automatically think that, well, they're in heaven. No need to worry about them anymore. You don't know that for sure, unless you got a really, really specific sign from our Lord. And those are rare. Those don't happen very often, okay? So we have to be reminded that the souls of the faithful departed, but those who have spent their time in purgatory, they still very much are interested in our salvation. And they very much want us to understand how bad sin is. And indeed, their desire is that we can work to make it straight to heaven. And so not have to make that stop in purgatory. The same, though, is doubly true of the souls now in heaven, whom our prayers helped release. Think about this for a second. You had a loved one, they have to go to purgatory, you prayed for them, you offered sacrifices, masses, there was headaches, okay, getting stuck in traffic, all that you offered to that person. That person now made it to heaven. You got like another guardian angel in that person. Another person helping you to make it back home as well. Don't forget, the people you've released from purgatory are now praying for you, working for you, offering all kinds of things from heaven down to you. Point number 7. The church's teaching on purgatory are indeed rooted in Scripture. If you're looking for scriptural evidence for purgatory, start in the second book of Maccabees in chapter 12. There you see Judas Maccabees. He orders prayers and sacrifices for the fallen soldiers who committed idolatry before their death. In the New Testament, St. Paul, he hints at cleansing fire of purgatory when he writes, "If any man's work is burned up, he will suffer loss, though he himself will be saved." It's 1 Corinthians 3:12 and 15 there. He also is praying for the soul of Onesiphorus in 2 Timothy 1 through 8. Why? Purgatory. But also the existence of purgatory is the only way to make sense of the scriptural assertions such as Revelations 21:27. No unclean thing will enter heaven. As well as the command, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect from Matthew chapter 5. Put all these things together, logic demands purgatory. That's some sort of purification after death. Think about this for a second. There's no purification after death. The population of heaven is what, 12? Okay? Incredibly small. Comprised of only the few who allow God to perfect them in this life. How many saints had to go through some of that purification, okay? Either, well, they did it here on this earth, all right? But a whole bunch of us, we're not going to do it on this earth for whatever reason, okay? Purgatory is an incredible gift that God gives to us so that more people can make it home to heaven. Number 8, purgatory was not an invention of the medieval church. A bunch of bishops sitting around playing cards, okay? Let's call it purgatory, okay? Maybe someday we'll have some snow place in Colorado, but same name there, okay? No, it wasn't an invention of the medieval church. Now, although the church didn't begin to officially define the doctrine of purgatory until the high Middle Ages, it was actually officially proclaimed at the Second Council of Lyon in 1274. The belief in a purgative state is as old as the church itself. The uninterrupted witness of church history tells us Christians have always prayed for their dead. Even before people used the word purgatory, they recognized the need to offer up prayers and have masses said for those who had left this life, all the way back to the 1st century. And so this uninterrupted witness includes the writings of the church fathers and doctors from that 1st century all the way on. It also includes records of Catholic commentary commemorating the anniversaries of departed loved ones with these masses and prayers. You can see these throughout history. Also the inclusion of burying the dead among the spiritual works of mercy, and centuries of Christians who left money in their wills for masses to be said for their souls. So it's not just a Catholic thing, it's part of the Catholic teaching, part of the big Catholic tradition that we've always had. So, now that we have the basics, let's take a look now at what some of the mystics of the church have experienced about purgatory. Yes, those in purgatory have avoided hell. They are assured of heaven. There still can be a place of great suffering for those who are there. And so, as is always the case with visions of the mystics, especially like those who had visions of hell, the following I'm going to share with you, just here with an open mind, but with balance, so you can kind of help you take more seriously the reality that is purgatory. And so the first sharing is from St. Catherine of Genoa. St. Catherine was a 15th century nun who spent much of her time caring for the sick, particularly those with the bubonic plague. She's also famous for mystical experiences of purgatory. Now the thing about Catherine is this. She says a couple of different things. The first one is, no tongue can tell nor explain, nor mind understand, the grievousness of purgatory. But I, though I see that there is a purgatory as much pain as it is in hell, yet see the soul which has the least stain of imperfection, accepting purgatory, as I have said, as though it were a mercy, and holding its pains of no account as compared the least stain which hinders a soul in its love. I seem to see that the pain which the souls in purgatory endure, because whatever in them displeases God, that is what they have willfully done against his great goodness, is greater than any other pain they feel in purgatory. That's because being in grace, they see the truth and the grievousness of the hindrance which stays them from drawing near to God. So at first it sounds like, okay, she's being kind of severe there, okay? Even the smallest stain of sin, you got to get purified, okay, it's going to hurt a little bit, all right? But she also writes in her treatise on purgatory, I believe no happiness can be found worthy to be compared with that of a soul in purgatory except that of the saints in paradise. And day by day that happiness grows as God flows into these souls more and more as a hindrance to his entrance is consumed. She describes it like this. Sin's rust is the hindrance. The fire burns away that rust. So more and more the soul opens itself up to divine inflowing. So that's Catherine of Genoa. A little bit strict, but also a lot of happiness, a lot of joy there, okay? But next, let's take a look at St. Faustina. Now, she, of course, is the Polish nun who brought us the Divine Mercy Chaplet. And she had several visions of Lord Jesus, the Eucharist, angels, and saints, and many visions of purgatory. And she wrote this in her diary. I saw my guardian angel who ordered me to follow him. In a moment, I was in a misty place full of fire, which was a great crowd of suffering souls. They were praying fervently, but to no avail for themselves. Only we can come to their aid. The flames which were burning them did not touch me at all. My guardian angel did not leave me for an instant. I asked these souls what was their greatest suffering. They answered me in one voice. Their greatest torment was longing for God. I saw Our Lady visiting the souls in purgatory. The souls call her the star of the sea. She brings them refreshment. I wanted to talk with them some more, but my guardian angel beckoned me to leave. We went out of that prison of suffering. She says, I heard an interior voice which said, my mercy does not want this, but justice demands it. Since that time, I'm in closer communion with the suffering souls. So she sees this more of a kind of a prison, all right, until they are released from that, okay? And it's a little bit more torment, a little bit more kind of a burning there, all right? But next we have a saint, Saint Lidwina. She was a 15th century Dutch saint and mystic. As a teenager, she had an ice skating accident which had her debilitated for the rest of her life. But a sinful man she had converted by her prayers and her exhortation. He was able to make a good confession, but he died soon after, unable to do much penance to make up for his sins. So after some time, she asked her guardian angel if he was still in purgatory. And so she had then this vision. He is there, said the angel. He suffers much. Would you be willing to endure some pain in order to diminish his? Well, certainly, she replied. I'm ready to suffer anything to assist him. Instantly, her angel conducted her into a place of frightful torture. Is this hell, my brother? She said to the angel. She was kind of filled with horror. No, sister, answered the angel, this is part of the purgatory that borders against hell. Looking around all sides, she saw what resembled an immense prison with big walls of great height, the blackness of which, together with the monstrous stones, filled her with horror. Approaching this dismal enclosure, she heard a confused noise of lamenting voices, cries of fury. This noise was such that all the tumult of the world in tempest or battle wasn't in comparison to it. Very, very loud, in other words. What then is that horrible place? She asked of her good angel. Do you wish me to show you to you now? No, I beseech you. She was so much filled with terror. The noise I hear is so frightful, I can no longer bear it. How then could I endure the sight of these horrors? But continuing her walk, she saw an angel seated on basically a curb to a well. You know, a well? Who's that angel? She asked to her guide. It is the angel guardian of the sinner, the man, that you're interested in. His soul's in that well. It has a special purgatory. At those words, St. Lidwina, she cast a glance at her angel because she desired to see the soul. He was very dear to her, and to see what she could do to release it from that pit. Her angel, who understood her, taking off the cover to the well, a cloud of flames, together with most painful cry, came forth. Do you recognize that voice? The angel said to her. Yes, I do, she said. Do you desire to see that soul? Yes, she replied in the affirmative. He called him by name, and he came out. And St. Lidwina saw him at the mouth of the pit, so on fire his soul, it resembled incandescent metal, like being totally burned, totally purified, which said to her in a voice barely audible, O Lidwina, servant of God, who will give me to contemplate the face of the Most High? In other words, who's going to set me free? The sight of this soul, she continues, a prey to the most terrible torment of fire, gave our saint such a shock that the cincture which she had around her body was cut in two. No longer able to endure the sight, she awoke from her ecstasy. So here then, for you all, is the question. Why do different mystics of the church have different accounts of purgatory? St. Catherine of Genoa described it as if basically a waiting room to heaven. A little painful, a little strict, but not too bad. St. Faustina described it as a prison. And St. Lidwina, almost a horrible place, kind of very similar to hell. Here's what might be helpful. This came from a priest who was trying to figure all of this out, why different mystics had different visions of purgatory. Some people view radiation treatment, like when you have cancer, as simply awful. Others see it as positive, because it will eventually render the patient clear of the disease. So the reality, of course, is that purgatory is a positive thing. It is. It's a purifying thing. In purgatory, the fire of God's love purifies souls from their attachment to sin. It cleans away the rust, the tarnish, that souls may be able to enter into heaven. But another thing to keep in mind, though, the descriptions we read in purgatory may differ in degree of harshness simply because different souls require different degrees of purification based upon their sins. In other words, some need a little more radiation than others. So along the line of thinking, St. Francis of Rome is among those mystics who were given visions, great visions of different levels of purgatory. So she described the lowest level as kind of like a vast burning sea. The middle level is less severe, and the highest level consisting of those closest to their release into heaven. So what's the bottom line? God did not reveal the state of the souls in purgatory to his saints, to his mystics, just to frighten us. Rather, he did so in order for us to be filled with hope that heaven awaits those who die in his friendship. We should always shoot for heaven and not settle for purgatory. That's the point. If purgatory can be this kind of unsettling for some people, well, let's just avoid it altogether and just try to get straight to heaven. Okay? That's really the point of all those kind of different mystical experiences. But now let's take a quick look at an interview of a mystic who had visions of purgatory throughout her life. Maria Simma. Now, Maria was born in Austria back in 1915. Maria never sought visions about purgatory. They just came to her. God just blessed her with them. And again, we can take her visions with a grain of salt, so to speak, but many in the church, especially many clerics, regard Maria as very credible a reliable source of information about purgatory. So that being the case, I'm going to treat this as if it was an interview itself. So the question, the person interviewing her said, Maria, can you now tell us, what are the most effective means to help deliver the souls in purgatory? And she said without hesitating, the most effective means is the Mass. Why the Mass? She says, because it is Christ who offers himself out of love for us. It's the offering of Christ himself to God, the most beautiful offering. The priest is God's representative. It's God himself who offers himself and sacrifices himself for us. So the efficacy of the Mass for the deceased is even greater for those who attach great value to the Mass during their lives. If they attended Mass and prayed with all their hearts, they went to Mass on weekdays, according to the time available, they draw great profit from Masses celebrated for them. Let's pause for a second there, okay? If you are used to going to Mass daily, and you happen to go to purgatory, all right, Mass is offered for you to be even more effective, because you know how powerful they can be. And so basically, we're praying for those who've gone ahead of us, who were there with you in the pews, day by day, and then they passed on. Well, man, offer Masses, they know exactly the power of that. They will appreciate that. It can be much, much more effective, okay? But continuing her quote there, okay, she says, here too one harvests what one has sown. A soul in purgatory sees very clearly on the day of his funeral, because they can see that. If we really pray for him or her, or if we have somebody just made an act of presence, we showed up, basically, okay? The poor souls say that tears at a funeral are no good for them. Only prayer. They don't want your tears, they want your prayers. And often they complain that people go to a funeral without addressing a single prayer to God, while shedding many tears. And the souls told Maria, this is useless. So the greatest complaint of the souls in purgatory is how they're almost completely forgotten by their family and their loved ones. And so they rightly complain that they receive no spiritual help from those that they themselves helped so much during their life. How few prayers are ever offered up for them, even at their funerals. Yet prayer is precisely what they need the most. And she goes on to mention not just the Mass, but there's other things, of course, like fasting, renunciations, suffering, penances. All those things, of course, can be offered up for the souls in purgatory. But then she continues, don't waste your earthly sufferings, either for the souls in purgatory or for ourselves. So on earth, when we suffer, we can grow in love. We can gain merits, which is not the case with the suffering in purgatory. In purgatory, the suffering serve only to purify us from sin. On earth, we have all the graces. We have the freedom to choose. Next question. Maria, why can one no longer gain merits in purgatory when we can on earth? And she says, because at the moment of death, the time to earn merits is over. As long as we're living on earth, we can repair the evil that we have done. The souls in purgatory envy us this opportunity. Even the angels are jealous of us because we have the possibility of growing as long as we're here on earth. But often, the suffering in our lives leads us to rebellion. We have great difficulty in accepting and living it. How can we live suffering so that it bears fruit? Sufferings are the greatest proof of the love of God. And if we offer them well, we can win many souls. You guys catch that? That's unbelievably profound. Sufferings are the greatest proof of the love of God, because he wants to trust you to know what to do with that suffering, one of which is to set people free from purgatory. And going back to her quote, you should not always consider suffering as a punishment. It can be accepted as expiation, not only for ourselves, but above all, for others. Christ was innocent himself. He suffered the most for the expiation of our sins. And only in heaven will we know all we have obtained by suffering with patience in union with the sufferings of Christ. The next question was given to her as Maria. Do the souls in purgatory rebel when faced with their suffering? She said, no. They want to purify themselves. They understand it is necessary. Next question. What's the role of contrition or repentance at the moment of death? She says contrition is very important. The sins are forgiven, in any case, but there remains a consequence of the sins. If one wishes to receive a full indulgence at the moment of death, meaning going straight to heaven, the soul has to be free from all attachment. She said in the next question, Maria, at the moment of death, does God reveal himself with the same intensity to all souls? She said, each one is given knowledge of his life and also the suffering to come, but it's not the same for everyone. The intensity of the Lord's revelation depends on each one's life. That's why you strive to live as a saint here as best as you can, okay? Next question was, Maria, does the devil have permission to attack us at the moment of death? She says yes, but man also has the grace to resist him, to push him away. So if man does not want anything to do with him, the devil can do nothing. Where do you practice that? The moment of death, you practice that now, pushing him away. Or even better, letting the Holy Spirit push him away. It's the moment of your death, you have nothing to fear. You receive the fullness of God's love. When someone knows he's going to die soon, what is for him the best way to get prepared? Maria says, to abandon himself totally to the Lord, offer all his sufferings up, be completely happy in God. And then next, what attitude should one have before someone who is going to die? In other words, you're ministering to someone who's passing away. What's the best that what one can do for him? She says, pray hard, prepare him for death. One must speak the truth. Have to speak the truth. And also, she said, the next question was, what advice would you give to anyone who wants to become a saint here on earth? Good question. She says, be very humble. We must not be occupied with ourselves. Pride is evil's greatest trap. Here's a very interesting one here, the last question they asked her. Maria, please tell us, can one ask the Lord to do one's purgatory on earth in order not to have to do it after death? And she says, yes. I knew a priest and a young woman were both ill with tuberculosis in the hospital. The young woman said to the priest, let's ask the Lord to be able to suffer on earth as much as necessary in order to go straight to heaven. The priest replied, he didn't dare ask for that. Nearby was a religious sister who overheard the whole conversation. The young woman died first. The priest died later. He appeared to the sister saying, if only I had the same trust as this young woman, I too would have gone straight to heaven. See, he had to do his time there in purgatory, right? So to kind of sum all of this up, I want to give you just two short little quotes here, all right? Hope you have a better appreciation of purgatory. It's a great gift from our Lord, but at the same time, let's do the best we can to go straight to heaven. And so the first quote is from St. Margaret Mary. If only you knew with what great longing these holy souls yearn for relief from their suffering. Ingratitude has never entered heaven. Can you imagine how grateful they are to finally make it there, okay? Especially those that have a lot of purification to take, a lot of rust they have to take care of. So in other words, gratitude is what gets us there. We'll practice gratitude here. Don't be ungrateful here. Be grateful constantly. It'll help us both in this life and the life to come. And finally, St. Paul of the Cross, he said, if during life we've been kind to the suffering souls in purgatory, God will see that help will not be denied us after death. We're all connected, especially those that we truly love who have gone before us. That's it for tonight, but God bless. We'll see you next time.